The story begins in silence, not the silence of a quiet night or an empty street, but the silence of absence, an absence so vast that it feels deliberate. For centuries, fragments of maps, ruins, and half-erased chronicles have whispered of a civilization lost to time, one so advanced, so expansive, that its erasure could not have been accidental. They called it Tartaria. Once upon a time, the name stretched across entire continents on maps of the old world. It appeared casually, like a familiar truth, Tartaria, occupying the breadth of Siberia, reaching into Central Asia, at times even spreading into what we now call Russia, Mongolia, and beyond. And yet, as the centuries turned, the word simply vanished. The question is not just how a civilization could disappear, the question is who wanted it gone. Walk with me. Imagine yourself standing in the hushed corridors of an old European archive. Dust hangs in the air like a veil, golden threads dancing in shafts of fading candlelight. A parchment lies before us, an atlas dated 1654. There it is, boldly drawn, Tartaria, not in the margins, not as a minor province, but spanning across half the globe. And then, by the time you reach 19th century maps, the name evaporates, as though it never existed at all. A trick of cartography, a shift in names, or something more sinister. Some historians dismiss it as a vague label, a catch-all term Europeans used for unknown northern land. But the more you look, the less convincing that sounds, for Tartaria was not described as a mere empty steppe. Reports spoke of vast cities, gleaming white towers, star-shaped fortresses, and canals stretching for miles. Evidence of engineering brilliance, centuries ahead of its time. And here is the first chill in our journey. Why does mainstream history insist on silence? Let us descend deeper. In the frozen vastness of Siberia, strange ruins rise from the permafrost. Cyclopean stone walls, their angles too precise to be natural. Star forts, with perfect geometry, designed with principles of sacred mathematics. These are not the crude shelters of nomads, but the fingerprints of a master civilization. Archaeologists stumble upon bricks, hardened beyond modern replication, and technologies that should not exist for the time. Some claim they were the remnants of Russian forts from the 18th century. But ask yourself, how do thousands of identical star forts, scattered across continents from Asia to Europe to the Americas, suddenly appear in the same century, as if stamped onto the earth by an invisible hand? Was Tartaria merely a forgotten empire, or was it the first global civilization, one that bound east and west before our history books permitted such contact? Now picture another scene. We are in the fires of the French Revolution have barely dimmed, and across Europe, monarchs redraw the lines of power. Historians begin re-editing chronicles, centralizing authority over knowledge itself. Libraries burn, archives vanish, and in the middle of this upheaval, Tartaria is quietly arrayed. Why? One theory whispers of a cataclysm, a mud flood, in city after city, from St. Petersburg to Istanbul to San Francisco. Layers of buried architecture tell the same story. Doorways sunken beneath street level, windows swallowed by earth, whole first floors entombed as if the world itself shifted and drowned them in soil. Was this the great disaster that toppled Tartaria, or was it the cover story used to mask its destruction? There is a deeper unease here. In cathedrals across Europe, in mosques across Asia, in government buildings across the Americas, architecture repeats. Giant archways, impossibly tall ceilings, intricate resonant domes, as though built to amplify sound or energy, not merely to inspire. And here's the riddle: why do these buildings, supposedly erected by separate cultures, separated by oceans, all carry the same design? Were they relics of Tartaria, repurposed, rebranded, renamed, structures of an advanced science we no longer understand? Electricity, free energy, sound resonance. Some suggest Tartarians harnessed the very forces of nature. Towers and spires, often called church steeples today, may once have been part of an energy grid, a network spanning continents distributing power without wires, without combustion. Nikola Tesla, centuries later, dreamed of the same thing. Did he stumble on knowledge already known and buried? But perhaps the most unsettling clue lies not in stone, nor in archives, but in memory. Consider the great expositions of the late 1800s and early enormous cities of gleaming white palaces, built supposedly as temporary displays for fairs in Chicago, Paris, St. Louis. Structures so vast and intricate, they would rival modern construction, yet allegedly demolished within months of the event. Photographs show cities that appear ancient, not new. Marble columns, domes, fountains, architecture echoing Tartarian designs. Were these truly built overnight, as exhibits, or were they remnants of Tartarian cities, repurposed as spectacles before being destroyed forever? It is almost as if someone wanted the world to see them one last time, and so we are left with shadows, an empire drawn on maps, yet denied in books, ruins buried, yet identical across continents, architecture repurposed, yet too advanced for its supposed creator, and a silence in history, thick, deliberate, unyielding. Who were the Tartarians? A forgotten people, a suppressed civilization, or humanity's greatest hidden chapter? The more we dig, the more the earth trembles with unease. For perhaps this is not simply about lost history. Perhaps it is about control, because if Tartaria existed, then the story we've been told about humanity, civilization, progress, it all unravels. The timeline collapses. The powers that rose in the last 200 years may not have built civilization at all, but inherited it. And that, my friend, is a truth worth burying. The air grows colder here, the shadows deeper. We have reached the threshold of revelation, but beyond this point, the trail grows dangerous, for it leads into realms where conspiracy, archaeology, and forbidden history collide. The map widens. Our trail now leads us east, across the endless steppes of Central Asia, where silence and dust conceal the bones of forgotten empires. Here, amid wind-swept plains and buried ruins, whispers of Tartaria refuse to die. Imagine riding across these lands, centuries ago. The horizon is flat, unbroken, yet strange silhouettes rise from the earth, half-sunken fortresses, cyclopean walls, and canals too straight to be natural. The chronicles of wandering monks and merchants spoke of cities of gold, of shimmering palaces that seemed to materialize out of the mist, only to vanish again like mirages. Were these exaggerations, or eyewitness accounts of a power erased from the scrolls of time? Our modern maps reduce Tartaria to a myth, a phantom etched in the margins. Yet old cartographers saw something else. Look closely at atlases from the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries. There it is, bold and sprawling, Tartaria, stretching across Siberia, Mongolia, and beyond. How could a land so vast, acknowledged by so many, simply dissolve into obscurity? Who had the power to redraw the world so thoroughly that entire nations vanished without a trace? But let us look deep. Archaeologists in Siberia stumble upon ruins that baffle explanation. Star forts, their geometric precision rivaling Renaissance Italy, built in lands supposedly untouched by advanced architecture. Across Kazakhstan, circular cities emerge from the soil, perfect in symmetry, their layouts echoing celestial alignments. How could nomadic tribes, said to roam with little more than tents and horses, have raised such mathematical marvels, unless the nomads were inheritors, not builders? The silence of Tartaria is louder than words. It is not absence, it is erasure. The collapse of its memory was not an accident. After the age of empire and conquest, a narrative was crafted. School books spoke of Mongols, of scattered tribes, of chaos and barbarism. Yet beneath that veneer lurks the possibility of a coherent civilization, one whose scale threatened the neat story of Western progress. And here lies the most chilling question. What if Tartaria was not destroyed by time, but by design? Imagine a global reset, wars, floods, plagues, disasters that left the world scarred. In the aftermath, victors rewrote history, branding survivors as primitives, dismantling the ruins, recycling their stones, burying their star-shaped fortresses under earth. With each century, Tartaria shrank from empire to rumor, from rumor to conspiracy, until today it is spoken of only in whispers. But ruins do not lie. Even now, in forgotten Siberian towns, cathedrals with onion domes rise out of the frost, their size dwarfing the surrounding villages. Why build such colossal structures in places with barely enough people to fill them, unless these towns were once thriving centers, remnants of something greater? And why across continents do we see the same patterns? Star forts in North America, in Europe, in Asia, identical in design. Who shared this knowledge? And why is it absent from every official chronicle? The threads tighten, something vast once bound east and west in a hidden unity. Could Tartaria have been that missing link? A world-spanning network later erased for reasons we can scarcely imagine. And so the mystery deepens. We stand at the edge of an empire erased, staring into the shadows of its ruins, its maps, its silence. The question is no longer whether Tartaria existed, but why someone wanted us to forget. The trail is far from over. Ahead lies the most dangerous territory yet, the theory of the Great Reset, a cataclysm that may have rewritten not just Tartaria's fate, but the fate of all humanity.